Good evening and welcome to Georgia 12 tonight. I'm John Stone, Republican candidate for Georgia's 12th congressional district seat. And if it's the first time to join us on this webcast, welcome. Send your questions to john@johnstoneforcongress.com, or you can reach us through either Facebook or Twitter. Either way, we're happy to take your questions and go over the issues that affect us here in the 12th district and across the country. Had a great week this week. Number one, I'd like to thank so many folks out there for a great week of donations and support and money. It's one of the things you as a candidate hate to ask for, but it's one of the things that you have to. If you're going to have a successful campaign and get our message out, unfortunately, in today's market, that means you have to buy advertising. Advertising costs money, and you have to have it to compete. And it's so difficult to ask for, and so many people came forward this week. It was a good week for fundraising, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate that and how much that does to help this campaign move forward. We also had a great week in traveling all over the district, particularly down in the southern tip. As many of you know, we have 19 counties now, stretching all the way from Columbia County down to Effingham County, over to Coffee County in southern Georgia, and back up to Lawrence County in Dublin. So we have a good-sized district, a couple hundred miles from one end to the other, and we had a great week covering it all, starting out here in Augusta, and then we were down through Millen and met with the folks at the Rotary Club there, which I always enjoy that. A bunch of crazy people that like to have fun, and that's a great place to speak and a great place to visit. We were in Statesboro, met with our college Republicans in Statesboro, along with other folks, Glenville, Douglas, Hazelhurst, and wound up today meeting and having a great lunch in Sandersville. Now, some of you may look at that map and say, well, Sandersville is no longer in this district. I don't care that it's no longer in the district. I don't care what the Georgia legislature says of the lines. I like Sandersville. I like Washington County. It might not be in there this year, but they could change the lines and it could be back in next year, so I'm claiming it no matter what. And my friends are my friends there, and we'll continue to see you no matter what. It's a vital part of our community as well, as far as the whole East Georgia community, and that it contains a large portion of the Fall Line Freeway, which we hope to expand to Interstate 14. So legislature can draw the lines however they want. I'm claiming Washington County no matter what. But thank you for calling in tonight. We got a couple of questions, and one of them was that question on the interstates. What's happening with Interstate 14? Well, we've discussed this before, but for those of you just joining us, in 2004, I was working with Congressman Max Burns when we introduced legislation to create Interstate 14 in that year. Of course, Max didn't win re-election, but we had Congressman Norwood reintroduce the bill the next year. It passed as part of the transportation bill in 2006, both the House and the Senate, and the feasibility study was signed into law by then President Bush. Now, what's happened since then is an absolute total lack of political activity to push it. We had a tremendous amount of bipartisan support on this project when it was introduced and passed into law, but since then it's been allowed to wither and die on the vine by our current representative. What happened last year that was quite significant is the U.S. Department of Transportation approved the feasibility study on I-14. Now, I-14 currently is the Fall Line Parkway, which extends from just south of Rennes to Macon, Columbus, across the state, giving some type of east-west access. However, it's just divided median four-lane highway with roads and intersections and traffic lights. It's not the highway that is not the true interstate that we need for this part of Georgia. What we desperately need is for Georgia's secondary cities, Augusta, Macon, Columbus, and Savannah, to have the same interstate transportation quality that we do in Atlanta. Our state looks like a spider's web. We have interstates, but they all go to Atlanta, and there's a complete lack of connectivity between Augusta, Macon, Columbus, and Savannah. So this project was designed to remedy that. It had broad bipartisan support. It was approved last year by the Department of Transportation at a record low figure that we could do it. And yet it's dying on the vine. Last year, Congressman Barrow did absolutely nothing to push this project forward, and even none of our Republican candidates last year did one thing to raise the battle flag on this issue. This is one issue that could really jump fire the economy in our district, in the greater Augusta area, and across our district, from here to Savannah, Sandersville, all across. That's why I'm always going to claim Sandersville. It's a key part of that. And it's one that, as your candidate, this is going to be a battle flag issue for me. Many of you remember our late great Congressman Charlie Norwood. The Patient's Bill of Rights was the thing that set him apart from other congressmen. This bill, our two new interstate highways, Interstate 14 and the I-81 extension that would take I-81 from I-85 in around Livonia and Toccoa to Augusta and to Savannah. These two projects together would absolutely set our economy on fire here in Georgia. And our economy desperately needs that help. As some of you already know, of all 13 congressional districts in Georgia, we currently have the worst unemployment rate in our state at 10.65%. That wasn't always the case. When Congressman Barrow took over this position in 2005, we were competitive economically with the other congressional districts. We were right in there with other districts that had the same mix of demographics of suburban, rural, urban population. And now we've slid to the very bottom, and it's because we have not successfully competed in transportation infrastructure. It's absolutely ludicrous that Georgia's first and second city, Savannah in the south and Augusta in the north, have no interstate connectivity whatsoever. That I'm still riding behind the same log trucks we were riding behind in 1963, and our interstate system is built out all across the country, and we lost out because we didn't have the federal representative to stand up and fight for this district. The same with connectivity between Augusta, Macon, Columbus. And interestingly, and this is why we had such broad bipartisan support for these bills when they were introduced, the same thing is true across much of the Deep South. When you get into Alabama, between Montgomery out the other side of Alabama, for Alexandria, Louisiana, for College Station, Texas, home of Texas A&M, and even for the state capital of Texas in Austin, there is no east-west interstate highway. So this would be a fantastic economic boost, not just for East Georgia, but for the entire Deep South. And that's why we had the representatives from those states, both Democrat and Republican, strongly behind this measure. You know, this is something that goes beyond partisanship. It goes beyond party. It goes beyond some of the social and moral divides that we have in the country. It's something we can all unite behind to get this economy going, bring us the jobs that we need, and start getting the economy of this district and this part of the South turned around. It's something we can win on. It's something that brings people together. Yes, I'm going to continue. This is my battle flag issue, and I will not rest until these highways are done and are done properly. So thank you for that question. Got another question tonight from here in Augusta, and would you support legalizing marijuana in the state of Georgia? Well, it's interesting we get the question tonight from Augusta because we had that same issue Wednesday night when I met with the college Republicans down in Statesboro. And it's one in which there's quite a difference of opinion between young Republicans, older Republicans, various folks. It's one of those dividing issues. As you know, many states around the country now, starting with California, but now also Colorado and many others, have legalized marijuana for medical purposes in those states and set up dispensaries. It's a divisive issue. Those of us who disagree with the use of drugs don't want to do anything to foster that, but at the same time, you look at the marijuana issue in the states that have done so, and if the state of Georgia wanted to approve that, and again, let me back this up. This is a state issue. These measures that were undertaken in the other states were passed at the state legislature, which decided at the state level they wanted to legalize or decriminalize marijuana for medical marijuana purposes. And the state passed that. I don't know that we have that sentiment here in the state of Georgia, but that would be up to the Georgia House and Senate and the governor, not Washington. Whereas Washington's position is on this, current, is that the Obama administration is taking a very lenient policy towards enforcing federal laws against the folks in the states that have legalized marijuana. Now, there's some questions on that constitutionally. Does the president have that much discretion in terms of prosecutorial discretion through the Drug Enforcement Agency and Department of Justice to unilaterally decide which laws he wants to enforce and which he wants to ignore? That's a different question. The overall issue, though, I think is where the question is, and this is where the folks and our college students in Statesboro were saying, it's interesting. We had 6 folks at the table. One was adamantly against legalizing marijuana in any shape, form, or fashion, just opposed to drugs at all. The other 5 were undecided. And they were undecided for some very specific reasons that no one there wanted to support the use of drugs. And the way we say, we also need to be careful about any type of substances we put in our body. But at the same time, It's out there. It's been going on. We're spending an enormous amount of time and money on drug enforcement, on marijuana. If you looked at how much time our sheriffs and local law enforcement spend enforcing the law there, how much we put into our jails, how many people's records are ruined for life because of a drug conviction when they're a young person. That was some of the comments from the college Republicans and some that I know personally of my friends. And marijuana's been around quite a long time, and we all know somebody that got fined for it, and it's on their record. Should we decriminalize it? I'm undecided too. I have some questions on that issue that I have yet had anyone answer to me, and that is, if we decriminalize marijuana, if we legalized marijuana, what about the other drugs that are currently illegal? What about meth? What about cocaine? What about that? The whole gateway issue. Yeah, that's a debate I've seen both sides of, and it's gone on, and I have yet to be satisfied on that. If you could convince me that we could make a significant reduction in the amount of money we're spending in law enforcement and go after more serious crimes and more serious drugs with those resources, and that would do more to curtail drug abuse, I'm willing to listen to that argument. But I'm undecided on the issue. I think we need to listen to our young people, listen to the new generation of Republicans who are coming up, who have ideas that are quite different sometimes from ours. You know, as I talk with a lot of young Republicans, there's a great affinity for some of the Ron Paul philosophy that's been around for some time. And I think what we're looking at is a real affinity for a libertarian type approach. Now, if you're a conservative, like me and like most of us, there's a certain amount of libertarian in all of us, or we wouldn't be conservative. We believe in individual freedom. It's just a matter of where do we put the brakes on that. And I think young folks, as they're coming up, they haven't quite figured out where to put the brakes on the various liberties in their lives. Whereas we get a little older and we become a little more set in our ways. But we have a young generation of conservatives. We have to have the door open to bring them into this party, to bring them into this movement, and put us back on solid free market conservative grounds for the next century and restore and protect the freedoms that we have. And to do that, we've got to build an organization, a tent that encompasses a lot of folks. I'm undecided on the issue. I'm willing to listen to arguments on both sides, and I thank you for giving me that question tonight. It's a good one, and it's a tough one, and I'll tell you what, you better get a straight answer out of everybody in this election on that question. I don't know if my answer satisfied you because I said I'm undecided, but truthfully, I am undecided. And that's my answer. But get the other folks to give you a question and answer on that too. It's critical in this election as you're determining which conservative you want to support. Who is a true conservative? Who is not? Where are they in terms of individual liberty and freedom? And will they tell you what they really think? I think it's important. Anyway, that's it for Friday night. It's been a great week. I hope you all have a great weekend and will join us back here Monday night at 9 o'clock. Remember to send your questions in to john@johnstoneforcongress.com. And thanks again for a great week of travel, a great week of friendship on the road, and the fabulous donations you gave. Thank you all so much. Have a great weekend. Good night. God bless Georgia, and God bless America.